John Porter sat in the NASA satellite control room at 3:47 in the morning. The screens in front of him glowed with data streams, and his coffee had gone cold an hour ago. He was good at his job. Better than good. He noticed things that other people missed. Today, he noticed something impossible. The energy signature appeared on Satellite 7's sensors, like a scar on clean skin. It was wrong. Everything about it was wrong. John leaned forward and pulled up the data again. His fingers moved across the keyboard, loading the information from different angles, different times. The signature was real. It had been there for 8 minutes, building like a storm on the edge of Saturn's orbit. Lisa Wang walked into the control room carrying her own cold coffee. She was the night shift supervisor, and she had been working with John for 5 years. She knew his face. She knew that expression meant something bad. "What did you find?" she asked. "I don't know yet," John said. "But this energy spike is not in the database. It is not any technology we have seen before." Lisa moved closer and stared at the screen. The data looked like noise at first, but John had already marked the pattern. It was building, growing, multiple energy sources, all coordinating, all moving toward a single target. "Call Derek," Lisa said. "Wake him up. He needs to see this." Derek Johnson arrived at the facility 30 minutes later, still half asleep, but becoming sharp as John showed him the data. Derek was their systems expert, the man who understood how satellites talked to each other, how data flowed, what normal looked like. He also knew what wrong looked like. "How long has this been happening?" Derek asked. 8 minutes when I first caught it, John said. "It is building now, accelerating." They watched the screens together. The energy signatures moved. They coordinated. They aimed. John felt his stomach drop. They are firing. Whatever they are firing at Earth. No one said anything. Derek's face went pale. Lisa's hands gripped the edge of the desk until her knuckles turned white. The alarms came 3 minutes later. Sirens howled through the facility. Emergency protocols activated. Every screen in the control room began showing disaster reports from across the planet. News feeds screamed about massive explosions. Cities were burning. The death toll climbed with each passing second. Tokyo, gone. 3 million people. The entire city erased like someone had taken a pen and crossed it off a map. Lagos. Hit next. 2 million more. Mumbai fell. Sao Paulo fell. Moscow, Shanghai, Mexico City, Sydney. John watched the death counter on one of the news feeds. It jumped from hundreds of thousands to millions to tens of millions. The number was not real. It could not be real. But it kept climbing. General Paul Rivera arrived at the Pentagon 20 minutes after the first strike. He was a career military man, hard and direct and smart. He had seen combat. He had lost soldiers. Nothing had prepared him for this. The briefing room filled with generals and scientists and government officials. They all looked like they had been hit by something. Because they had. The human race had been hit. Struck from the darkness above. Attacked by something that was not supposed to exist. "What are we dealing with?" General Rivera asked. A scientist named Malcolm Stone stood up. His hand shook. "We are dealing with directed kinetic strikes from an orbital position. Multiple simultaneous strikes across major population centers. The weapons appear to be traveling at extreme velocity. The damage patterns suggest they came from beyond the moon." "From space?" Rivera said. It was not a question. "Yes, sir. Definitely from space. The signatures match nothing in our databases. This is alien technology." The room went silent. The word alien hung in the air like something toxic. At the same moment, on a space station orbiting Saturn, Commander Zix-9 of the Valorian Empire watched the live broadcast with satisfaction. The humans were dying beautifully. The chaos was perfect. The panic was exquisite. The Valorians had been watching humanity for 40 years. They had studied the species from hidden positions in the outer solar system. They had concluded what many advanced civilizations concluded. Humans were primitive, violent toward each other, tribal, fragile, useful for only one thing. Entertainment. The idea had come from Zix9 himself. Why simply observe when you could make a show? Why simply study when you could broadcast? The Humanity Exhibition Project had been approved by the Valorian Council with unanimous excitement. They would strike the humans down. They would broadcast it live across the galactic network. The universe would watch as an upstart species learned the cost of existing in a cosmos ruled by beings far superior. Already, the broadcast had over 2 billion viewers across Valorian space and friendly client civilizations. The betting pools were massive. Fortunes were being made. Zix9 had never felt so important, so validated, so certain that his legacy would echo across the stars. He did not look at the humans as people. He looked at them the way humans once looked at insects. Small, numerous, fragile, disposable. Prepare the second wave, Zix9 ordered. Strike the government centers. Hit their military installations. Kill their leaders. I want them unable to coordinate a response. I want them broken. His officers moved quickly to obey. The Valorian ships began charging their weapons again. Back on Earth, John Porter stood in the satellite control room and recorded the data. He recorded the energy signatures. He recorded the direction the attacks came from. He recorded the frequency patterns of whatever the aliens were using to coordinate their strikes. We need to trace this back, John said to Lisa and Derek. We need to know where they are broadcasting from. Why? Derek asked. His voice sounded dead. What does it matter? It matters because they are still out there, John said. They are still firing. And if we can find where they are, maybe we can hit them back. It was not a big hope. It was barely a hope at all. But it was something. And in that moment, when the world was burning and millions were dying and the future looked like darkness, something was all that remained. Lisa nodded. Get to work. Both of you. Find them. Find everything you can. The 3 scientists turned back to their screens. Behind them, the news feeds continued their count of the dead. In front of them, the data streamed in from 1,000 sensors. And somewhere above, in the cold darkness of space, the Valorian fleet prepared to fire again. The universe did not know it yet, but this moment marked the beginning of the end for an empire that had learned to hunt humans without understanding what it meant to be hunted in return. 48 hours after the first strikes, John Porter had not slept. His eyes were red. His hands shook. He was running on coffee and rage. He and Derek had been digging through the broadcast frequencies, trying to break into the alien signal. They had started with basic decryption. When that failed, they had tried pattern recognition. The signal was complex, layered, designed to resist intrusion. But humans had been breaking codes since before they had computers. They had been breaking codes using pencils and paper. Derek finally broke through at hour 36. I have something, he said. His voice sounded like it belonged to someone made of broken glass. It is a video feed. They are broadcasting something. John moved to Derek's station. On the screen, beneath layers of encryption and alien signal compression, they could see movement. They could see celebration. The video showed aliens. They looked like creatures made of metal and chitin, geometric and sharp and wrong. They were arranged around a large viewing screen, and they were laughing. Even through the alien technology, the motion was unmistakable. They were happy. On the screen they watched, Earth cities burned. Derek played the audio. The aliens were talking, discussing the strikes. John had spent every free moment learning their language from intercepted signals. He understood only pieces, but the pieces made sense. "Humans are dying," one of the aliens said through Derek's translation software. "Look at their panic. This is beautiful. This is art. I have bet 50,000 credits on the North American strike," another one said. "The human government response is even slower than I predicted. The collapse of their social order is almost complete." John watched a building collapse on the broadcast within the broadcast. Thousands of people were dying. The aliens were placing bets on the deaths. They were making entertainment out of human extinction. Something broke inside John. A thing that had been holding together since the first strikes simply shattered. He stood up from his chair and walked away. He needed to hit something. He needed to break something. He needed to scream. Lisa found him in the bathroom 20 minutes later. He was standing at a sink, water running, staring at his reflection. She did not say anything. She simply stood with him. "They are doing it on purpose," John said. His voice was hollow. "They are not attacking us by accident. They are not conquering us. They are killing us for entertainment." "I know," Lisa said. "There is no reason to stop them," John said. "We have no defense. We have no way to reach them. They will keep killing us until we are all gone, and they will laugh the entire time." "There is a reason," Lisa said. "There is one reason." John looked at her. "Because we are still here," Lisa said. "Because we are still alive. And because maybe we can make them regret what they have done." At the Pentagon, General Rivera sat in an underground command center with leaders from every major nation on Earth: Russia, China, Japan, India, Brazil, Germany, France, the United Kingdom. Every nuclear power, every military force, every government that mattered. The death toll had reached 70 million. Cities had been erased. Governments had collapsed. The entire world was trying to process the fact that it was being hunted from space by beings that viewed them as entertainment. "Do we have any capability to strike back?" General Rivera asked. A Russian general named Petrov shook his head. "Nothing. Our fastest missiles travel at 6 kilometers per second. Assuming the aliens remain in their current position, they would reach us in under 30 minutes. A strike from Earth would take weeks to reach them. We would be striking at a target that has had weeks to move. Our weapons are useless at this distance." "What about satellites?" General Rivera pressed. "Repurposed weapon systems? Anything?" A scientist named Emma Rodriguez spoke up. She had been brought in because she understood orbital mechanics and weapon systems. "There is a possibility," she said. "The aliens are stationary. They believe they are safe. If we could create a coordinated electromagnetic pulse using repurposed satellite technology and nuclear devices, we could disable their sensors. But we would only have one chance. If we miss, they will know we have the capability to fight back. What if we do not care if they know?" General Rivera asked. Silence. "I do not understand what you mean, sir," Emma said. "I mean, what if we do not attack them to survive?" General Rivera said. "What if we attack them to make them pay?" The room was very still. President Karen Lee of the United States was watching from a secure location. She had been waiting for this. She had known that eventually someone would say the words that needed to be said. The words that would define how humanity responded to extinction. "If we strike back," she said, her voice coming through the communication system, "we cannot hide it. Every person on Earth will know that we are fighting, that we are hitting back. The Valorians will respond. They will retaliate. More people will die." "Yes," General Rivera said. "We could negotiate," said a Chinese representative. "We could try to communicate. Maybe reach a peace." "Look at the broadcast," General Rivera said. He gestured to the screens, showing the Valorian entertainment feed. They are killing 10 million of our people per day. They are betting money on the deaths of children. They are laughing. There is no negotiating with this. There is only justice. The president was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. General Rivera is right. We fight. We do not fight to survive. We have already lost too much to survive this. We fight because some things are worth the cost. We fight because we do not accept that humanity simply dies without hitting back. We fight because every person we kill among them makes their arrogance cost something. Within 24 hours, the decision was broadcast to the entire world. Every nation knew. Every person knew. Humanity was going to strike back. The response was not panic. The response was not despair. The response was rage. John Porter watched as scientists from across the world arrived at secure facilities. Engineers, programmers, physicists, mathematicians, everyone who had the skills to help build something that could strike at the stars. They came knowing they might not survive. They came anyway. Manufacturing plants that had been producing consumer goods began producing weapons. Scientists who had spent their lives in peace suddenly designed systems for war. The entire human civilization pivoted toward a single goal: make the Valorians pay. John worked with Derek and Lisa. They traced every signal. They mapped every power signature from the Valorian fleet. They found the gaps in their defenses. They found the places where Valorian technology was vulnerable. And somewhere above Earth, Commander Zix-9 continued the broadcast. He had no idea what was coming. He had spent so long studying human weakness that he had forgotten to study human strength. He had watched them fight each other, destroy each other, fragment into endless conflict. He had never seen them united. He had never seen them with a common enemy. He had never seen humanity with a reason to make something bleed. John watched the Valorian broadcast one more time. He saw the aliens celebrating. He saw them laughing at human deaths. He saw them making bets on extinction. They have no idea what they have done, John said to Lisa and Derek. No, Lisa agreed. They have no idea at all. The construction of the response system took 14 days. 14 days from the moment humanity decided to fight back to the moment the weapon was ready. It was an impossibly short timeline. It was also the only timeline they had. John worked in a secure facility in Colorado. Around him were people who had never met before the strikes. Russian scientists worked next to American engineers. Chinese programmers sat beside German physicists. The common language was mathematics and determination. The weapon had two parts. The first was the electromagnetic pulse, a coordinated burst of energy designed by Emma Rodriguez and a team of physicists. It would use repurposed satellite technology combined with the detonation of nuclear devices in space. The pulse would be shaped and focused, targeted at the Valorian fleet's location. It would disable their sensors. It would knock out their shields. It would blind them. The second part was the missiles. Humans had been building missiles for 100 years. They had learned how to make them faster, more accurate, more devastating. John and Derek worked on the guidance systems, taking every piece of targeting data they had gathered and embedding it into the missiles' computers. The missiles would not need to be guided. They would guide themselves. They would use human mathematics to find alien ships and strike them down. John sat in a briefing room with General Rivera. The general was older now than he had been 2 weeks before. The weight of what was coming had aged him years. "We can hit them," John said. "The data is solid. If the satellites launch on schedule and the missiles fire as planned, we can reach them before they can prepare a defense." "How many do we hit?" General Rivera asked. 80 to 90% of their fleet, John said. "Maybe more if we are lucky." General Rivera nodded. Tell me the cost. John did not want to say it, but he said it anyway. 20 million people. We estimate the Valorians will get one more strike off before the electromagnetic pulse reaches them. We can calculate the impact zones. We can try to evacuate. But 20 million people will die. General Rivera looked at the screen showing the Valorian broadcast. The aliens were celebrating again. New cities were burning. New death counts were climbing. Tell me what happens if we do not strike back. General Rivera said. John did not answer. Everyone dies, General Rivera said. All 8 billion. Slow or fast does not matter. If we do not hit them, we all die. So 20 million is the cost of hope. 20 million is the price of fighting back instead of waiting for extinction. Tell me that is acceptable. It is acceptable, John said. He meant it. 20 million dead. Unfathomable. But 8 billion dead was worse. The choice was death was bearable. This death was bearable because it was a choice. It was not something happening to them. It was something they were doing. In the command center at the Pentagon, the final preparations continued. Military forces worldwide coordinated in ways that would have been impossible 2 weeks before. Russian missiles were loaded alongside American warheads. Chinese satellite positioning data was shared with every allied nation. Every border conflict, every old hatred, every national pride was set aside. A young fighter pilot named Steve Chun trained for a mission he might not survive. He was being prepared to fly a one-way intercept mission, to guide missiles toward the Valorian fleet if the automated systems failed. He accepted this without complaint. Most pilots did. General Paul Rivera stood in front of the assembled military commanders from every nation that had a seat at the table. He was about to give them the final order. In 1 hour, we begin Operation Payback, he said. Every missile will launch. Every satellite will fire. The electromagnetic pulse will knock out their defenses. The missiles will follow. This is how we save humanity. Not by running. Not by hiding. By standing up and making them bleed. The commanders saluted. John watched the countdown from the Colorado facility. The screen showed satellite positions. The display showed missile readiness. Everything was aligned. Everything was ready. The universe was about to change. Lisa Wong was at a satellite control station in Nevada. She had her hand on the launch sequence. Derek Johnson was in California, monitoring the missile guidance systems. Across the world, in dozens of facilities, thousands of people had their hands on the controls that would determine humanity's future. John thought about the aliens watching their broadcast right now. They had no idea. They thought they were untouchable. They thought they could hunt humans forever and face no consequences. They had studied humanity for 40 years and understood nothing about what humans were actually capable of. Humans were fragile individually, but humans were also something else. Humans were adaptable. Humans were creative. Humans could look at a problem and find solutions that no other species would think to try. Humans could coordinate. When humans decided that something had to be done, they found ways to do it. The Valorians had forgotten that. Or maybe they had never known it. 10 minutes remained. President Karen Lee was in the Situation Room. She had authorized this attack. History would judge whether she was right. In this moment, she knew she was right. She knew it in her bones. 5 minutes. The missiles were fueled. The satellites were charged. The electromagnetic pulse systems were online. Everything was prepared. Everything was ready. 1 minute. General Rivera raised his hand. John held his breath. The general's hand came down. Launch, he said. Across the world. In multiple locations, the launch sequences activated. Satellites fired their energy weapons into space. The electromagnetic pulse grew and expanded, racing toward the Valorian fleet at the speed of light. Missiles ignited. Thousands of them. Every facility that had missiles aimed them upward. Every nation fired. Every warhead launched. The missiles accelerated rapidly, pushing through the atmosphere, leaving the gravity of Earth behind. They were not guided by remote control. They were not guided by radio signals that could be jammed. They were guided by calculations embedded in their computers by scientists who had studied the Valorian fleet's position and movement. The missiles knew where they were going. The missiles knew what they were seeking. John watched the data streams. The electromagnetic pulse was 9 minutes away from impact. The missiles were accelerating. Everything was happening as planned. On the screen showing the Valorian broadcast, nothing had changed yet. The aliens were still celebrating. They were still laughing. They were still making bets on human deaths. They had no idea that the hunters were about to become the hunted. John felt something he had not felt since the strikes began. Not hope. Hope was too small a word. Something larger. Something that felt like vindication. Something that felt like justice dot in his mind. He could already see the moment when the electromagnetic pulse reached the Valorian fleet. He could see the moment when their sensors died. He could see the moment when they realized what was happening. He could see the moment when they understood what it meant to underestimate humanity. The countdown continued. The missiles raced toward their target. The electromagnetic pulse pushed forward, invisible, unstoppable, and deadly. Everything humanity had built in 14 days was about to hit. The species that thought it could kill them without cost. Everything was about to change. Commander Zix-9 felt the first impact as a vibration through the floor of his command vessel. It was strange. Nothing had hit them. Nothing should have been able to reach them. They were stationary. They were safe. They were untouchable. The vibration came again. Report. Zix-9 ordered. The sensors officer looked confused. The electromagnetic field is dropping, sir. Sensors are going offline. Shields are fluctuating. How is that possible? Zix-9 demanded. What could create an electromagnetic pulse of this magnitude? No one answered. The third vibration was massive. The lights flickered. On the viewing screen, the broadcast feed from Earth suddenly became static and noise. The entertainment was ending. Incoming missiles, someone shouted. Multiple contacts. They are moving at extreme velocity. They will reach us in 4 minutes. The bridge of the command vessel fell into chaos. Alarms screamed. Officers ran to stations. The ship that had been so confident, so comfortable, suddenly became a place of panic. ZYX-9 could not understand what was happening. The humans were supposed to be dying. The humans were supposed to be helpless. The humans were supposed to be prey. The first missile hit the outer shield array. The shield flared and failed. The missile punched through, tearing metal, destroying systems. The ship shook. Crew members fell. The humans were fighting back. The second wave of missiles came faster than the Valorian defense systems could process. These missiles were not simple kinetic strikes. These were precision weapons, designed to find targets, designed to exploit weakness. Some targeted propulsion systems. Some targeted communications. Some targeted weapon arrays. The Valorian fleet was not prepared for a peer enemy. It was prepared to hunt. It was prepared to destroy from a position of absolute superiority. It was not prepared to be hunted. Commander Zix-9 watched as another ship in his fleet exploded. The explosion lit up the darkness of space. Crew members died without even knowing what had hit them. They died the way millions of humans had died, suddenly, without warning, without mercy. Return fire, Zix-9 ordered. Sir, our weapon systems are partially disabled, an officer reported. The electromagnetic interference is still degrading our sensors. We cannot calculate accurate firing solutions. Destroy them by any means, Zix9 said. Kill them. But the Valorian weapons were not designed for blind fire. They were designed for precision. They were designed to work on a species that could not fight back. Without their sensors, without their precise calculations, the weapons were nearly useless. 3 missiles launched. All missed. All exploded in the vast emptiness of space, but the human missiles kept coming. John watched the data streams in the Colorado facility. The electromagnetic pulse had worked exactly as planned. The Valorian sensors were offline. Their shields were failing. The missiles were hitting their targets. 87% of their fleet is showing catastrophic damage, Derek reported. His voice was steady but full of something else. Something that might have been satisfaction. The 4th wave of missiles launched. These were the largest warheads, designed to finish the job. They moved faster than the damaged Valorian ships could escape. They moved faster than defense systems could respond. The flagship of the Valorian fleet took a direct hit on its propulsion core. The explosion lit up the darkness of space like a small star. The flagship ceased to exist. 3 billion credits of advanced spacecraft destroyed in an instant. Commander Zix9 ceased to exist with it. His last thought was confusion. How was this possible? How had prey become predators? The mining vessel named Valorian Pride was hit by 3 missiles in succession. Its shields were gone. Its propulsion was crippled. Its life support systems were failing. The crew members inside screamed as the vacuum of space began to claim them. Another ship, the Valorian Hope, managed to limp away from the worst of the bombardment. Its captain ordered an immediate retreat toward Valorian space. But the missiles were faster. The missiles had mathematics on their side. The missiles found it in the darkness and struck true. The observation platform that had been broadcasting. The human extinction died when a missile hit its main generator. The broadcast went dark. The commentary stopped. The celebration ended. Across the galaxy, in thousands of locations, Valorian viewers watched as the feed died. Some did not believe what they had seen. Some assumed it was a technical malfunction. Some, the smart ones, understood what had happened. Humanity had struck back. Prey had become predators. The Valorian fleet was being destroyed. In orbit around Saturn, the remaining Valorian ships attempted to coordinate a response. But coordination required sensors. Sensors required functioning systems. By the time the remaining fleet understood what was happening, it was too late. The 5th wave of missiles launched. These were not the largest missiles. These were precision strikes, designed to target specific systems. Communications arrays were destroyed. Engineering stations were obliterated. Command centers were erased. One ship managed to launch distress signals. It broadcast a message toward Valorian space, begging for rescue, reporting the disaster. The response came hours later, when it was clear that no rescue was coming. The Valorian Empire would not send ships. It would not launch a counterattack. It would do nothing because it could not accept that its greatest fleet had been destroyed by prey. John watched as the data stream slowed. The missiles were running out of targets. The Valorian fleet was not a fleet anymore. It was debris. It was wreckage. It was the remains of a species that had learned too late what it meant to underestimate humans. 87% destroyed. 92%. 95%. The final missiles launched against the ships attempting to flee. Some made it back to Valorian space, crippled and broken, carrying stories of disaster. Most did not. 20 million humans had died in the counterstrike. The Valorian estimates had been accurate. In one final bombardment, the Valorians had killed 20 million people. But then the missiles came, and the Valorians died by the millions. General Rivera watched the data streams from the Pentagon. He was watching the moment when humanity stopped being prey and became something else. Something that could not be hunted. Something that could hunt back. "It is done," Emma Rodriguez said. Her voice was hollow. "Yes," General Rivera replied. "It is done." On the screens, the wreckage of the Valorian fleet drifted in space. Some ships still had power. Some still had life support. Some carried Valorian crew members who were still alive, stranded in the darkness, forced to understand what it felt like to be hunted and helpless. John understood something in that moment. The Valorians had come to kill. But they had created something worse. They had created an enemy that was smarter than them, more adaptable than them, more willing to pay a terrible cost for justice. They had underestimated humanity. And now they would spend the rest of their existence understanding what that mistake had cost them. The silence was louder than the explosions. For the first time in 2 weeks, the Valorian broadcast did not resume. No new attacks came. No new cities burned. The slaughter stopped. Humanity did not celebrate. It was difficult to celebrate when billions were dead, when millions more were dying of disease and starvation, when the infrastructure of civilization was fractured beyond recognition. But something had changed in the human consciousness. They had survived. Not by surrendering. Not by accepting extinction. By fighting. By hitting back. By making their killers pay an impossible price. John Porter walked outside into the Colorado sunlight for the first time in weeks. His skin was pale. His eyes were hollow. But he was alive. And he was standing in a world that still existed because humans had decided that death with their fists raised was better than waiting. Helplessly, Lisa Wong was already in the sunlight, standing with her hands on her hips, looking up at the sky. Derek Johnson joined them. 20 million dead, Derek said quietly. In that last strike, all the people who died because we fought back. 8 billion dead if we did not fight back, Lisa replied. Do not forget that number. That is what we avoided. John did not say anything. He was thinking about the Valorian crew members stranded in their broken ships. They had tried to kill everyone on Earth. Now they were drifting in space, slowly suffocating or running out of food, understanding finally what it meant to be helpless. Understanding finally what they had done. General Rivera stood in the Pentagon with the leaders of every major nation. The meeting was short. The conclusion was inevitable. We must prepare for what comes next, General Rivera said. The Valorians will not send another fleet immediately, but they will eventually. We have shown them that humans can fight. Now we must show them that we can defend ourselves. The decisions came quickly. Every nation would pool resources to build a space defense force. Nuclear weapons would be repurposed for space-based defense systems. Scientific communities would coordinate globally on weapons development. The age of nations fighting each other was over. The age of humanity fighting for its survival had begun. President Karen Lee addressed the world from the bunker where she had sheltered during the attacks. We have lost much, she said. Billions of our people are dead. Entire civilizations have been destroyed. Cities that had stood for thousands of years are gone. But we are still here. We are still human. And we have learned what humans are truly capable of when they decide that something must be done. She paused. Behind her, screens showed the wreckage of the Valorian fleet. Let every species in this galaxy know what happened here, President Lee continued. Let them know that humanity does not accept extinction. Let them know that we will fight. Let them know that underestimating us comes with a cost that is calculated in star systems and extinction events. We are not conquerors. We are not looking for war. But we will not run from war when it comes to us. The speech was broadcast to every nation, every military, every scientific facility. It was also, unknowingly, broadcast across space. picked up by various alien species monitoring Earth broadcasts. The message was clear. Humanity had been hunted. Humanity had survived. Humanity had hit back. And now humanity knew what it was. In the weeks that followed, recovery began. Not recovery like the world had been before. There was no before anymore. The before was dead, burned away in Valorian fires. Now there was after. John worked on the Space Defense Network. The missile systems were being improved. Faster, more accurate, more devastating. The Valorians had taught humans how to think about warfare in space. Now humans would become experts at it. He also started the project to document what had happened. He recorded interviews with the scientists who had built the weapons. He recorded interviews with the soldiers who had launched them. He recorded the death counts and the casualty reports and the photographs of the destroyed cities. He did this because someone had to. Because the story had to be told. Because what humanity had done deserved to be remembered. One day, John received a visitor. It was John Rivera, the general's daughter. She was a physicist who had worked on the guidance systems. She was also a person who had lost her entire extended family to the Valorian strikes. "I wanted to thank you," she said simply. "For what?" John asked. "For finding them. For figuring out what we needed to do. For understanding that we could fight back." John looked at her. She was young, maybe 30, with dark eyes that had seen too much. "I just did my job," he said. "No," John Rivera said. "You did more than that. You found a way for humanity to say no. To say that we would not simply die. That meant something. It will mean something to the billions of people who survived because you fought." She left him alone with that thought. John watched the video feeds of the first reconstruction efforts. Cities that had been erased were being rebuilt. Not in the same places. Not in the same ways. New cities, built with the knowledge that the sky was no longer safe. That space was no longer untouchable. The galaxy did not know what to do with humanity. The species that humanity had studied, the ones who had conquered neighboring systems, the ones who had believed they were invulnerable, were suddenly cautious. A primitive species had destroyed 90% of an advanced fleet. A prey species had become a predator. Diplomats from several alien species attempted to contact Earth. They wanted to trade. They wanted to negotiate. They wanted to understand. Some offered defense packs. Some offered knowledge. Some simply wanted to ensure that humanity would not strike at them. Humanity accepted some offers and rejected others. The age of isolated nations was ending. The age of isolated species was ending. Humanity was joining the galaxy, not as a conquered people, but as something more dangerous. A species that had learned to fight and understood what the cost of underestimating them would be. Derek Johnson published a paper on the guidance systems. It became required reading in military academies across Earth and eventually across the known galaxy. Scientists studied how a primitive species had improvised weapons that could destroy advanced technology. The answer was always the same: creativity, desperation, and Lisa Wong helped establish the Space Defense Academy. She trained new pilots and scientists and engineers. She taught them how humans had fought the Valorians. She taught them to think about warfare in space the way humans thought about warfare on Earth, with adaptation, with innovation, with willingness to do whatever was necessary. John Porter watched all of this from a distance. He had done what was needed. Now others were carrying the work forward. One evening, he stood in his apartment looking up at the stars. Somewhere up there, the remaining Valorian ships were limping home. Somewhere up there, crew members were dying in the darkness, understanding what it meant to be hunted. Somewhere up there, the Valorian Empire was trying to process the fact that a prey species had destroyed them. John thought about the broadcast. They had live-streamed 10 million human deaths. They had made entertainment out of extinction. They had planned to keep broadcasting until everyone was gone. Now the universe was broadcasting what had happened in response. Humanity had struck back. Humanity had made their killers bleed. Humanity had transformed from prey to predator in 14 days. The light from the stars reached Earth. Some of that light came from stars where alien species watched and wondered. What was humanity? What made them so dangerous? How could such a primitive species have destroyed such an advanced fleet? The answer was simple. Humans were the same thing they had always been. Fragile, adaptable, creative, determined, capable of incredible coordination when threatened with extinction, willing to sacrifice everything for justice. The Valorians had learned that lesson at the cost of their empire. Other species would learn it by watching. Other species would understand that if you hunted humanity, humanity would hunt you back. And they would do it with mathematics, missiles, and a kind of justice that left nothing alive to celebrate.